So you might think this video topic is a bit out of left field for me, and you'd be right. Now, I'm sure most of you are familiar with the story of Cinderella. There are actually thousands of variants of this folktale that have been told throughout the world, but I'm sure you got the general idea when you heard the story's name. The tale of a young woman who's lost her parents and now suffers under the cruelty of her wicked stepmother, finding escapism through a royal ball with the help of a magic fairy godmother, and managing to win her own freedom with a glass slipper. That's the story in a nutshell. So why am I making a video on Cinderella? Simple, because it's actually my favourite fairy tale. A bit of an oddly specific thing to decide you have a favourite in, but hey, welcome to autism. It helps that I'm a sucker for stories about protagonists who overcome the problems in their life, and in Cinderella's case, these struggles are actually surprisingly human. Not that I can relate to being in an abusive household, but I feel for our leading lady all the same, and it's always nice to see someone succeed in living their dreams. And in this video right here, I wanted to explore the story of Cinderella and kind of make my own adaptation. Because hey, I'm an artist, so I can just show you all what I mean with my art. I'll be drawing my take on our leading lady and explaining my ideas per story. Without further ado, let's start the magic! So to make sure we're on the same page, I'll start by talking about the general premise of this story. Our main protagonist is Ella, a young woman of ambiguous age. I think we can assume anywhere from 18 to early 20s. But anyway, her mum is dead, and her dad has remarried to a rich but very cruel woman, this being the story's main antagonist. And now that Ella's dad is dead too, the evil stepmother has taken over and essentially made Ella an unwilling servant in her own home. As for where the name Cinderella came from, it was actually an insult made up by her stepsisters, because she was always covered in cinders from the fireplace. But by the end of the story, that's the name she uses to introduce herself to the princess she falls in love with, so she kind of reclaims the name in her favour. It's basically a Dr. Eggman situation when I think about it. So for my take on the story, I want to put a bit more focus on what Ella does every day. Like I said, she's an unwilling servant for her evil stepmother, but I imagine that for one day of the week, she's sent to go shopping, and that's her only real chance to go outside. And it's that day every week where she gets to talk with people, particularly a boy around her age who she's built a long-term friendship with. Spoiler alert, he's the prince in disguise. I want to lean their relationship into more of a friends to lovers type thing, since I just like that kind of dynamic. In general, I do have some ideas on how to improve the prince's involvement, since he doesn't have much to work with in most adaptations. But those will have to wait until he gets his own video. So personality-wise, Ella's a very sweet, considerate person. She's someone who doesn't want to offend people, kind of to a fault because she doesn't always stand up to her problems. I imagine this would really show with her stepmother, who she'd still treat with respect, but more so because she's afraid of what would happen if she defies her. But anyway, I'll save the rest of the story for later. Let's talk about the art. So for Ella's design, I had a pretty clear goal in mind. I wanted her to look dirty and dishevelled to reflect her poor living condition, also I can contrast it with a very colourful and sparkly ballroom outfit. But regardless, I really wanted Ella's sweet personality to show in the art. I mainly did this with the pose, and by giving her eyes a soft, non-angular shape. For Ella's outfit, I was quite inspired by the character's appearance in the Disney movie. Since that's probably the most well-known portrayal of the character, I figured that adding some recognisability was a good move, so people can be like, oh, that's Cinderella! Communication is pretty important with art. But of course, I didn't just want to copy-paste the design. I made sure to give it my own style. I gave Ella's skirt and apron a maid-inspired look, and I unfastened one of the straps on the top piece to further sell that untidy look. I think my favourite part of the design was definitely the hair. I made sure to fill it with splits and loose ends, and I really like the shapes that I created as a result. I also like what I did with the hair colour, being platinum blonde but with alternating dark and light stripes. Lately, I've come to realise that I really enjoy designing two-coloured hair, be it with gradients, stripes, or anything of the sort. The other fun part of this design was covering her in dirt, burns, and soot. Actually, that sounds wrong when I say it out loud, but my point is, that effect was fun to draw, and I do like how it turned out. Now moving on from one side of this character to another, it's time to draw her magical ballroom dress. And I was going in with one very specific idea. I was going to follow my dreams and make Cindy a magical girl. I actually haven't watched any magical girl shows personally, but I do love the aesthetics they bring. Besides, it's not something I get to draw often, and it gives some distinct identity to my take on this character. But I know what you're thinking. This is a royal ball. Would a shorter skirt make sense? I wasn't certain myself for most of the speed paint, but I did a bit of research, and I found quite a few outfits in that sort of style. Though I don't claim to be a ballroom expert or anything, so feel free to tell me in the comments if you know more about this sort of thing. But anyway, my biggest inspiration for this design was Princess Tutu, a more obscure magical girl series with a heavy focus on ballet and fairytale characters. I started the outfit with the sleeveless shirt and big poofy skirt, a pretty simple magical girl look, but then I added more to it with these big flowing veils. I wanted to have them hang around the arms, since that's quite an extravagant look in my books, as well as having them curve around the back to add to the design's silhouette. And of course, I had to give her these high-heeled glass slippers. Not the most practical footwear, but they worked just fine with a little bit of magic. When it came to the ballroom design, the most fun part was definitely the colouring. I started with a white and blue colour scheme, then added some glow effects over the top for extra shine. I made sure to render the slippers slightly differently, with a rainbow gradient so that they stand out. And to top it all off, I made her outfit ridiculously shiny, just covered her in sparkles, to make further contrast with the dirt on her everyday look. Oh, and to anyone wondering what the fairy godmother looks like, I'm thinking of designing her in a future video. All I really know is that I want her to be an old lady, and I want her to have a sparkly blue colour scheme like Ella's ballroom dress. Speaking of which, how about we get back to the story? So this royal ball is happening so the queen can get her son married, and Ella really wants to attend so that she can have one night of proper freedom. But her stepmother catches on to it, and on the day before the ball, she savagely ruins Ella's party dress right in front of her. It's here that all seems hopeless, though Ella is helped by the fairy godmother, who is summoned by her own suffering to help the misfortunate to follow their dreams. I've also considered tying her to Ella's father somehow, just to give him more story presence. Like, he had a difficult life himself and it was the fairy who helped him out of it. That would make her a reminder of the person who Ella loved most, which I think would make their dynamic more compelling. So thanks to the fairy godmother's magic, Ella gets her sparkly new dress to go to the ball with. And with an additional spell, nobody will be able to recognise her. Which is good, since her stepmother and stepsisters are also attending the ball. Though it also means that her friend, the prince, can't tell who she is. I'm still not sure how to execute the whole glass slipper token of love thing, but that is an iconic part of the story that wouldn't work if they recognise each other right away. And this whole experience really helps Ella get the freedom she's been missing. You see, because of her prior experience with her stepmother, Ella's kind of forgotten how to express herself. She can still appreciate the little good things, like when she goes out into town and she's talking with the prince, but her stepmother has been quite damaging to her spirit. But of course, her time at the ball and support from the fairy godmother is especially freeing for her. And in the end, she's able to overcome the evil stepmother, prove her identity to the prince, and then she can move out with him so she doesn't need to be an unwilling servant anymore. When I think about it, this take on Cinderella really reminds me of one of my OCs, this superhero boy named Mitch Magnus. He is this depressive, down-on-his-luck teenager in his everyday life, but it's through his alter ego Thunderwing that he can be happy and express himself. Though granted, his story is less about finding hope and freedom like with Ella here, and more about learning to love his real self outside the mask. Still, I think I have a real soft spot for this kind of story. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. But today's wondering if Ella still has animal friends in this adaptation? Yeah, sure, why not? I didn't think I'd want them to speak, but they'd still be a nice friendly presence. And then the fairy godmother can use her magic to turn them into staff for the magic pumpkin carriage. As one does. But anyway, this speed paint footage is coming to a close now, so before the clock strikes 12, let's take a look at our finished result. So there we have it. What do you think of this character design? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And of course, if you want to see more of this take on Cinderella, let me know that in the comments too. If you're interested in my art, definitely check out the other videos on my channel. I also have an Instagram account linked in the description where I like to post my art on a regular basis. But at the end of the day, thanks for watching this video. Stay hopeful, don't give up on your dreams, try not to misplace your glass slippers, and I'll see you all next time.